Hello, and thank you to all of our viewers watching live for Dine Sports. This is our breakdown of UFC 317, Topuria versus Oliveira. This awesome event taking place here on International Fight Week in Las Vegas. T-Mobile Arena plays host to this awesome event. Two title fights. Looks like a really solid card we're getting this summer for International Fight Week. Joined as always, I have Nick here to break down these fights with me. How are you feeling as we head into the event this Saturday?
Yeah, really fun card top to bottom. Definitely looking forward to it. Fun stylistic matchups, a lot of name value, big prospects, a few weird ones to open the card, but we'll get there. But yeah, man, Ilia Topuria looking to become one of the few who've won belts in multiple divisions. Charles Oliveira, obviously former lightweight champion, one of the biggest fights the UFC can put on right now. I know a lot of people wanted Ilia against Islam, but it sounds like that fight could still happen if they both win. But yeah, man, really fun card. Looking forward to breaking it down with you.
Okay, we will get right into the fights. And yeah, this main event is it's going to be a fun one for however long that it does last. Ilia Topuria minus 500, the betting favorite against Charles Oliveira, who could be had at plus 350 right now. The underdog, this for the vacant lightweight title. The winner to be crowned lightweight champion here in the division once that Charles Oliveira rolled over. Obviously, his incredible run to earn the title the first time around, putting on multiple defenses thereafter. One of the best to ever do it at lightweight, a serious threat in this division, and somebody who you really never expect to see as such a significant betting underdog. Very oftentimes we are blessed getting Oliveira at plus money or near even money in a lot of the title fights that he has won. But I mean, to be seeing 350 next to his name just speaks to the volume of what the consensus fans, diehards, and bettors alike feel about the former featherweight champion Ilia Topuria. His previous two performances, incredible. Stoppage wins against Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski. It would really be quite the three-fight streak if he was able to put together a knockout early against Charles Oliveira here this weekend. Sort of building into that here, this international fight week. Obviously, the promotion would love to see, either outcome in this spot, but this is about Topuria. I think fighting here in Las Vegas too, on home soil, or not home soil, winning the U.S. fan base, even more so, taking out a crowd favorite, Oliveira, somebody who's getting all the cheers at the press conferences taking place this week. Um, be a huge win for him. I think he matches up well stylistically. Oliveira always very dangerous early, but putting himself at risk in terms of his striking defense. Topuria, an absolute tactician, technically sound boxing, um, hyper aggressive. Oftentimes he will put himself in danger in terms of his defense, but he is still rolling with shots, always intelligently defending as he is moving forward and looking to cross the distance against his opponents. Oliveira is going to meet him right there in the middle. Perhaps Oliveira is going to look to grapple against Topuria, who has good grappling skills and offensive wrestling from top position. But these two are very likely to engage in a match on the feet, throwing everything they have at each other. It's just who they are. It's just the style of fight we see out of both of them. And again, with Oliveira's defensive holes, 7-year age gap between these two, the damage we've seen put on Oliveira before, numerous losses before by stoppage too. I think it's pretty clear Topuria is going to put his hands on him, and the most likely outcome is going to be an early knockout. That's how I see this one going. I love betting the under in this fight here. I think it will not go a complete 2 rounds, and you can play that prop right now at near even money. But yeah, I will side with Topuria here, as much as it pains me, especially seeing that price tag for Charles Oliveira. It's just, I mean, what do you think is going to happen here? I think he's going to put his hands on Charles early, and it's going to be game over.
Yeah, I mean, I have trouble disagreeing. I do think the line's a little bit disrespectful just because of who Charles Oliveira is. Great champion, a lot of really solid wins. But when you look at that title run, I mean, he was caught in a lot of those fights. I mean, even against Chandler, we talk about Gaethje, uh, Poirier, etc. All kind of similar style to Ilia. Not quite the same one-shot power though. And in all those fights, we kind of saw Charles fall to his back. Whoever knocked him down would kind of go into his guard and then end up submitted from there. But we saw in the Islam Makhachev fight, different type of matchup, kind of more similar to what we're seeing here, because Ilia does have the grappling credentials. I mean, he is such a good striker, and he's been winning all these fights by knockout. But people forget when he came up as a professional and made his debut in the UFC, he was a grappler first. This is a guy who averages over 2 takedowns per 15 minutes, 61% takedown accuracy as well as actually and Charles is not that Charles is any sort of wrestler. But yeah, I just think stylistically, it's just a really tough spot for Charles. Charles says he's going to march forward. We did see a more tentative version of him against Chandler, which would probably be wise here. But at the same time, I mean, I don't know. I think he's going to crash forward and probably end up caught on a counter or something like that, similar to what we saw in all those title fights for Charles Oliveira. I mean, anyone backing Charles is going to talk about the height and the reach advantage. Obviously, Ilia moving up a weight class, but Charles's last loss came to a fighter in Arman Tsarukyan, who's also pretty short. I think about the same height as Ilia Topuria. Obviously, a little bit different of a matchup stylistically, but yeah, outside of maybe getting caught in a guillotine, I think this is Ilia Topuria's fight to win or lose. And yeah, I mean, it just seems very, very likely that they're going to meet in the middle of trade. Ilia does a great job kind of using the bodywork to set up those knockout blows like we saw against Max Holloway, another very, very tall opponent, even taller than Charles. I really have no concern about the height or the reach advantage here, which is about 5 inches. But yeah, I mean, Ilia can fight out of both stances. Charles has had issues at times against southpaws. I think Ilia can also work the leg kicks here. And if Charles does try to take him down, Ilia does have the grappling ability to work his way back to his feet. Things could get hairy if Ilia is on bottom or is in a guillotine, but I think he knows very well that that's probably Charles's only true path to victory here. People would probably bring up the fight that Ilia fought against Jai Herbert as well, where he was almost knocked out, but that was kind of on short notice. He has bulked up. He looks really good at 155. I think we're going to see it at weigh-ins tomorrow. We're recording this right now on Thursday evening. It seems like Charles is having a rough weight cut too. I mean, we're already seeing these clips of 40 Brazilians in a shower with him praying like on a Thursday. Like that's kind of a bad sign. Didn't look great at the press conference. He always gets sucked out. Definitely has to cut a lot of weight. But he seemed a little bit more uncomfortable than usual. I can't imagine he's having a great weight cut here. Been a while since he has had to make that championship weight. And Ilia, obviously, not much of a cut for him moving up in a weight class. Another advantage for him as well. I will say the money line is a little bit ridiculous. If you are tying Ilia into parlays, it's very easy to hedge in that last fight, given the big number on Charles. Charles is a fan favorite, though. Wouldn't be surprised to see the line close a little bit. But I'm actually with you. I think the unders here are more interesting. Under 2.5, minus 160 at one book right now. I do expect that to inflate. Fight not to start round 3. I think you get around minus 150. Like those are the safer plays. Or you could just take Ilia KO 1-2. I think those are probably his clearest paths to victory here. Obviously, much better prices on all of those than what we're getting on the money line. But yeah, I do think Ilia gets it done here, probably via knockout. Charles is a wild card. He's dangerous. He loves the chaos, but at the same time, Ilia thrives in that chaos. He's taken on better strikers lately. I think he has the jiu-jitsu to stay safe if he does end up at Charles's guard. So yeah, I'm all over Ilia here. I think he gets it done convincingly. Don't love the money line, but there's plenty of different ways to attack this fight.
Yeah, I think difficult as well, the weight cut for Charles Oliveira, as you did highlight. Somebody who had weight misses at 155 pounds before, got finished a lot easier during his career fighting down at featherweight. Certainly, moving up a weight class for Topuria will be a bit more difficult facing these tougher and stronger opponents, but it's only been 8 months since his last fight at featherweight. He's going to feel this is a very easy cut. He should be the fresher fighter in there, and he can take much more shots to the head, I would think. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to this main event. Going to be all action, and I think right there with you, definitely under 2 rounds. We're going to look at the co-main event next. This fight at flyweight, Alexandre Pantoja looking to defend his title again. Minus 250, the betting favorite here, facing Kai Kara France. I think these odds are completely reasonable. Kai Kara France has a puncher's chance against just about anyone in the division, given his power and his great kickboxing skills. He's had numerous performance bonuses. He has the resume and kind of the aura of a champion. So it wouldn't surprise me if he were to go in and find a miracle knockout in this fight. He was in a title fight before that did not go his way. And now the second time around, he should be, more well prepared, knowing what he needs to do in order to win. This is also a rematch of a fight that took place years ago between Pantoja and Kai Kara France. It was only 2 rounds on the Ultimate Fighter. That was enough to see Pantoja was the better fighter back then. Um, he should be favored to win, is the rightful favorite, just like in that first meeting. I believe with his grappling, his mixed martial arts overall, just elite everywhere, but grappling specifically, his offensive jiu-jitsu, what he should be able to do when he does get a hold of Kara France is hold him and completely neutralize his offense for the remainder of each round. We've seen this in title fights prior for Pantoja, which were a little less than exciting. But France is somebody who does scramble well and fights out of positions. Still looks to land strikes anytime he does break away from his opponents. The difficulty with facing Pantoja is just that his striking's come a long way too. Um, Training continuously at American Top Team. He's so long for a flyweight. Just his ability to use that length, and, jab away at guys, eat punishment from opponents on the feet. It's been a key to this success as the flyweight champion. I think that does continue here, but just again, putting yourself in danger, eating shots like that against somebody with the power of Kara France is going to expose him to some danger. I very much think it will be, and still Pantoja the champion at the end of the weekend. He should be able to defend his title against harder competition than Kai. Even though he's kind of clearing out the ranks here at flyweight currently, he should be able to get the win. I think he holds down Kara France and probably takes a decision in this one.
Yeah, definitely on the Pantoja side here. I do think it's kind of a tricky matchup for him, though, for a few different reasons. Obviously, Kara France has the knockout power. That's really been the difference for him in the flyweight division. A lot of his wins coming via KO. But yeah, Pantoja never been finished. We've seen him take crazy amounts of damage in a lot of his fights. Never been knocked out. I don't think he's even been submitted either. So just a very, very difficult fighter to finish. The better grappler here, Kai famously has an 88% takedown defense, one of the better defensive grapplers, but I do think that numbers have been inflated because of his fights with what's his name, Askarov, a few other guys who try to take him down a lot, Mir Albazi. So that number is a bit inflated if you're just looking at statistics. And Pantoja does kind of fade at times in some of his fights. I think Kai could come on late like he did against Albazi, a fight that he lost that many felt he won. But at the same time, I do think that Pantoja should be able to pull away in the first few rounds. Kara France also a guy who has given up his back in a lot of fights. And if Pantoja gets your back, very, very different animal, very difficult to kind of defend submissions from that position against him. So I do think it's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised to see Kai pull off the upset. I actually think it would probably come via decision if he were to. But that being said, I really don't think it's the most likely outcome. A guy who has lost 2 of his last 3 fights getting the title shot here because he did KO Steve Erceg, but Erceg not really known for his durability, which is one of Pantoja's greatest strengths. Um, I don't know. I don't feel great about it. It just kind of gives me some pause because Pantoja does seem to fight on narrow margins. I do think he's the better striker, the better grappler. I do think if he finds Francis back, he's either going to win that round easily or maybe find the submission. So I just think he has more paths to victory, but he does need to manage that gas tank. He can't go balls to the wall early, super aggressive like we do see him sometimes, like he did against Asakura, because Kara France does have solid cardio and he will be there late. So as long as he manages his gas tank, kind of paces himself, I do think we see Pantoja retain here. I think it's 4th title defense. Getting up there now is one of the best flyweights of all time. Obviously not going to catch Demetrius Johnson anytime soon, but he's starting to enter the conversation. So I do think Pantoja gets it done here. Not super confident, but stylistically, this is a fight he should be able to win again, as long as he manages that gas tank. I think that is a key for him to victory here. If the takedowns aren't coming easily, he should continue to pursue them, but not to the point that he's gassing himself out. So I am on Pantoja here, but I would suggest most to proceed with some caution.
And yeah, the little hesitation, I'm right there with you. I mean, I was hammering Pantoja, minus 200 against Ursag, minus 250 against Asakura in his last fight. But again, we're getting the same price here against who I would consider much higher level competition. So definitely not somebody I'd be as confident betting at the window. I'm right there with you. Um, All right, staying at flyweight, we will look at the featured bout next. This a matchup between Joshua Van and Brandon Royval. Near pick'em in the odds at the on this one currently. Van is minus 120, the betting favorite, while Royval could be had at 100 even money. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I'm definitely on the Royval side. I love Joshua Van. I think he's a really fun fighter. I think this if this were a 5 round fight, I'd probably give him a bit more of a chance. But with it being 3 rounds, I do think Royval is just a level above. Coming off wins over Tsuruta, Brandon Moreno, his loss to Pantoja, where he was competitive for the full 25 minutes, wins over Nicolau, Schnell, etc. As good as Van's been, I mean, he's really not taking on the same level of competition. On a 4 fight win streak here, Shiraz, Durden, Saruya, Silva. I don't know if any of those guys are currently ranked. And as impressive as he's been, I think stylistically this is a difficult matchup for him. Van, what he does best is he kind of wears on his opponents, kind of breaks them with pace. They start to fade as he comes forward and just gets more and more aggressive, fights downhill, for lack of a better phrase, landing more than 8 significant strikes per minute. Just ridiculous. But Royval, kind of the same thing. I mean, this is a guy who fights at a crazy pace, thrives in the chaos, super durable. And the much, much better grappler here. I think he could probably find a finish on the mat if he is able to take the fight there. And I think the length advantage here, only listed as 3 inches. I think he could be even longer. Royval does a really good job kind of using that jab, fighting out of the southpaw stance. When we did see Van KO'd against Charles Johnson, Johnson was throwing out of the southpaw stance, so I think that's significant here as well. I just think this is a bigger step up in competition than many are kind of giving it credit for. Many are, I don't know, the betting market even is really considering. Van's super active, but cutting weight frequently. Royval was fully prepared to take on Manel Cape, one of the best strikers in the world at 125 pounds. So his camp is very much squared away here. I mean, it's a very similar matchup for him. Van taking this fight on short notice, very different type of opponent than what he's been seeing lately. I just don't rate any of his recent wins anywhere near the level of Royval. So I do think Royval, as far as the money line goes, one of the better value sides on this card. He's been an underdog most of the week. It seems like that's starting to flip. He's actually the favorite on some books now. I do think he is the side though here, whether he gets it done inside the distance or via decision. Should be able to match Van on volume, with which is something many can't do. And he's going to have the cardio and durability and grappling ability to pull away, I think, before this fight is over. Again, 5 rounds, maybe he could kind of slow Royval down, but over the course of 3, Royval, who trains at Elevation in Denver, just not a guy who's ever really had issues with cardio. So I'm on the Royval side here.
Yeah, we'll use this as an opportunity to plug our write-up coming on Saturday as well with final picks and predictions for all of these fights. Be sure to check it out on Dine's Press Box. I'm torn. I'm leaning the way of Joshua Van on this fight currently, but as you said, this should be a hectic, high volume striking match between these two, and it really could end up going either way. Some reasons I like the Royval side would be his ability to scramble, utilize his jujitsu to great effect. And although Van is somebody who has a lot of issues with takedown defense, Royval isn't necessarily somebody who shoots extremely often. So if Van's just going to stand, strike, look to bang with Royval, he's more than likely going to oblige rather than really intelligently go ahead and try and take this fight to the mat, where I think he does have a more decisive advantage. On the feet, it's a power factor for Van. Oh, those strikes get heavier as the fight wears on, whereas Royval's, I would say, get a bit lighter, less accurate, don't tend to sting quite as much. And over the course of this fight, Van should be continuing to land meaningful damage. But I think Royval is going to peter out just a bit in terms of his strikes landing accurately and effectively. But that's really all just stipulation. These two are going to be throwing at a crazy rate. It would not surprise me to see this fight eclipse 100 significant strikes per minute. I would just rather trust the guy that's been in there more often. You're absolutely right that Royval has been in the cage with extremely high level competition in the past, especially in comparison to what Van has faced. But in terms of recent activity, Van has fought 5 times since Royval's last appearance 8 months ago. It's very impressive, although it's not the highest level competition he's going in there and beating. It is the undefeated right to Saruya. It is Bruno Silva in his last fight. Again, not a great fighter, but very impressive finish, doing what he needs to do in the way that we expect him to do it. And again, if Van's going to be able to stand in there, trade with Royval, I slightly favor his power. I like the chin. I like the advantage of age on the 23-year-old side. This kid's going to have a bright future, even if he does not get past Royval this weekend. But yeah, that one has fight of the night written all over it. Those two certainly setting themselves up for the title conversation at flyweight. We'll move on now to a matchup at lightweight. This between Renato Moicano and Beneil Dariush. This fight is even money pick'em at current between these two fighters. Moicano slightly favored throughout the course of the week here. It's a tough fight to handicap, I would say. There's a lot to wonder about both fighters at this current stage. The last performance for Moicano was just a loss to Islam Makhachev in that surprise title opportunity. Prior to that, he was on quite a tear. I mean, he was going through opponents, Benoit Saint Denis and Jalen Turner, beating them to pulps on the mat. That's where he is best, utilizing his offensive jiu-jitsu, but maintaining top position and wailing on his opponents from there, whether it be utilizing that jiu-jitsu to hunt the finish or utilizing his strikes in order to do so. Against a guy like Dariush, I don't see Moicano following that same game plan. He's going to have to take the fight to the mat if he wants to get top position against Dariush. And if Moicano's the one shooting takedowns here, I think an elite grappler such as Dariush should do well, stuffing shots, maintaining his position on the mat, and even reversing some of the positions Moicano may put him. Moicano's the more credentialed jiu-jitsu practitioner, but I really like Dariush overall on the mat, and we haven't really seen him put in many compromising positions there. A lot of the concerns regarding Dariush at this stage of his career is exactly his chin and is it catching up to him? Not good performance in his previous few fights, but again, against high level competition, and I think this is a fair matchup against Moicano. Rightfully a pick'em fight. This one could definitely go either way. I think it would be a fight favored to go to the scorecards, and I kind of would favor Dariush more there, since I think I'm going to get a more steady 3 rounds out of him compared to Moicano. I also think Dariush poses more power on the feet, and we're going to see him have bigger moments in this fight, whether it be landing a big overhand or stuffing a takedown, completely reversing Moicano in positions if he is found on bottom at all on the mat. So I do like Dariush for those reasons. Not a very confident pick, though. This is certainly a fight that could go either way. Curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the more difficult fights on the card to call. These are two extremely similar fighters. I mean, their greatest strength is certainly their grappling ability. They both come a long way in terms of the striking, though. I would give the striking edge to Dariush in terms of just pure technical ability, both offensively and defensively. But he is getting up there in terms of mileage. I mean, these guys are essentially the same age, so I don't really think it's like some age gap or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, Dariush kind of folded in the Sarukian fight, obviously. Looked good until he didn't against Charles. I think he is the better guard here, and Moicano himself said that. He thinks Dariush is the better grappler off his back. But if Moicano's on top, like we saw against Saint Denis, he is extremely dangerous. So this is one of those fights. Again, we'll plug the article Saturday. I'm not 100% decided on. You did bring up the Turner one, though. I just want to kind of throw in the caveat that probably a fight Moicano should have lost, but Turner just kind of showboated looking for that big bonus at UFC 300. Ended up suffering for it as Moicano did bounce back. But two fighters here with kind of questionable durability, which makes it volatile. Two fighters that are able to find submissions on the mat, and two fighters that are getting up there in age. So there's definitely question marks on both of them coming in here. Yeah, I think right now I lean the Dariush side. I will say I'm with you. I think if it goes 15 minutes, he's the side. But I do think the more likely fighter to find the finish is Moicano, just because he's been so aggressive and explosive over his last few fights. Actually was hanging on the feet for a few seconds, minutes with Makhachev there before he
He
was
knocked
taken
him
down.
down.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know that he's going to be able to find the same success here just because Dariush kind of knows what he's getting into. This is a really interesting matchup. If you remember, too, this fight was scheduled before Sarukian was forced to pull out. So Dariush has kind of been in camp for Moicano for like over a year. I don't know. It's a very difficult fight to call. I'll be interested to see how they look at weigh-ins. Dariush has had kind of a wide range of outcomes in terms of what he looks like on the scale. Can kind of say the same for Moicano. I do think he'll probably have a fine weight cut. But these guys size up extremely well. I think striking give Dariush the slight edge in terms of technical ability. Lately, I've preferred the power on the Moicano side, and then on the mat, it kind of depends who is shooting the takedown and who is getting on top. It's really tough to say. One of the tougher fights on the card to call. I slightly prefer the value on Dariush right now, but definitely a fight I'm going to spend little bit more time, digging into until I make a final pick and decision.
Okay. Next, let's take a look at the main card opener. This fight at bantamweight between Felipe Lima and Payton Talbott. Felipe Lima minus 185, the betting favorite against Talbott, who could be had at plus 155. This is quite a turnaround for Payton Talbott. Last time out, he closed minus 1100 against Raoni Barcelos and proceeded to lose that fight. Barcelos taking him down, exposing a hole in Talbott's grappling over the course of that fight, and just really got worse and worse for Talbott the later that it went. Certainly, I was overexposed there, expecting Talbott to do what he does on the feet, and that was not the case against the savvy veteran, Raoni Barcelos. I think the market has overcorrected quite significantly in this spot, and I almost have to chase and take Payton Talbott as the betting underdog. Certainly, I think Lima is very good. 14-1 as a professional, winning his last fight against Miles Johns. Really impressive fashion. Every single round went to Lima. He was able to control where that fight took place against a guy in Johns that does have some wrestling. And yes, over the course of those 15 minutes, proving that he is going to be a future contender here in the bantamweight division. But again, the same we were saying about Payton Talbott before that one loss on his record, and I'm not ready to write him off quite yet. The issue is you would not correct such a hole in your grappling in just 5 months of training. The good news, though, that Lima is not necessarily somebody I think is going to expose it. So these two probably will be engaging on the feet for longer than the odds would suggest. And they're on the feet. Talbot is as good as it comes for somebody at this stage of their career. Perhaps learning some lessons from that last fight to be a bit more aggressive, to use his striking to better effect early on, to throw out more jabs, to engage more often. Obviously, he needs to mind his business going in against Lima and not to injure himself against a very powerful striker. But over the course of a 3-round fight, I think Talbott's technical skill is going to shine through. And if these two are going to be standing and striking for the most of it, I would rather have the Talbott side. So he's going to be the pick for me. Curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, this is a tough one, right? I mean, Talbot was kind of on top of the world going into the Barcelos fight, definitely exposed in terms of the grappling, was controlled for the better part of 15 minutes there as a massive favorite. Felipe Lima, training with Khamzat Chimaev out of All Stars in Sweden for a time. I don't know if Khamzat's there anymore, but yeah, obviously a very talented kid, hasn't lost a fight in years. His first fight professionally in 2015 is the only loss on his entire record / resume. Looked good against Miles Johns, debuted against Muhammad Naimov, who's a very tough opponent, who looked pretty good last week. And yeah, got in there, found the submission in that spot, showed really solid durability and cardio and ability to strike with the striker, then take over late. Talbot is going to be the better striker here. Fights out of switch stance, little bit of a reach advantage. I think it's even wider than maybe was listed at, I think, 2 or 3 inches. But Talbot landing nearly 7 significant strikes per minute, even including that Barcelos fight where he struggled to really do much offensively. Lima, though, a guy who's definitely going to go for the grappling. So this is a super binary matchup. I think whoever can get their game going is probably going to look like a pretty big favorite here. I do think Talbot probably made the adjustments, but at the same time, I totally understand why Lima's the favorite because he's just as hot of a prospect, same age, great career trajectory. These are two guys who could be ranked for years to come if we're being completely serious. And I don't know. I do think Talbot's probably the side as an underdog. I do think there is market overcorrection to your point, but at the same time, I have zero confidence in him just knowing Lima averaging 1.7 takedowns per minute against opponents in Miles John and Naimov, who I certainly rate as better grapplers than a Payton Talbot. So I'm actually slightly, I guess, on the Lima side, even though I do agree that the value's on Talbot. Just a binary matchup in which I do think the gap in the grappling is probably wider than the striking. Again, Talbot, the better technical striker, but Lima does have a positive striking differential. He actually has a 72% takedown defense, or striking defense, excuse me, compared to Talbot's 44, absorbing just over 2 significant strikes per minute. Does a really good job defensively, kind of circling away from the power of his opponent. So, I think the gap's just a little bit wider on the mat, but I do think if it goes 15 minutes and Talbot can mostly keep it standing, he's the side. But again, just coming off that Barcelos fight, maybe I'm bitter based off that result. But right now I'm on the Lima side, but certainly a fight I could see going either way. Certainly a fight I'm not 100% decided on. But yeah, for now, give me Lima. Just I do think he could probably get the grappling going enough to pull this out.
Okay, next up, we are going to take a look at the preliminary portion of the card. The prelims begin starting at 6:30. They end prior to the pay-per-view with this fight at middleweight. Gregory Rodrigues minus 220, the betting favorite here against Jack the Joker Hermansson, who could be had plus 180 as the underdog. Hermansson, impressive in his last fight, 5-round performance against Joe Pyfer. He did drop the first 2 rounds against Joe Pyfer before he was able to rally back and take over in that bout. Similar stylistic matchup here against Gregory Rodrigues, somebody who is going to move forward, fire their power shots. It should look a lot like that Pyfer fight did early on for Hermansson, and yet this time around it's only going to be 3 rounds. So I do think in this spot, Rodrigues is going to end up being the pick for me. Ultimately, Hermansson, good, very good, elite competition throughout his entire career. Just sort of falling short in a couple key spots against the upper echelon opponents he's been facing. And then some of these up and comers lately, Delidze, submitting to ground strikes, certainly a position I could see a guy like Rodrigues putting Hermansson in. But Hermansson also losing to strikes a couple times before. And against a serious power puncher like Gregory Rodrigues, I could see this going the way of like the Cannoneer performance or, a fight of that nature. Hermansson is difficult to read when trying to chase him down and land strikes on the feet. He moves in weird patterns. He's always looking to shoot in for takedowns. It's just he's not going to really be able to fight his best game against somebody the style of Rodrigues who could defend shots, could do well on the mat on his own, and lands with much more significant power. Rodrigues has also not given me any real reasons to fade him yet. His last performance was a 5-round test against Jared Cannonier where he ended up getting stopped there in round 4. But again, a showing where Rodrigues was able to hone in early. He's normally going to give you at least 7, 8, 9 minutes in the beginning of the fight of just nonstop pressure forward and high power strikes landing. So I like that. I'm going to take him in this matchup as the moderate betting favorite, but not with much confidence. Hermansson always is tricky to read, can always get it done. Shooting for a single leg he always makes his fights very competitive, and I could see him finding a way to win just like he did in his last bout. Made some money on it that last time out. Yeah, not going to give it all back here, betting against him in this one.
Yeah, this is a very difficult fight to call. These are two kind of volatile fighters who are good, but they have kind of holes in their game. Hermansson, not really known for his durability, but over his last few fights, he's definitely shown it. I mean, against Pyfer, ate some really big shots there. The Delidze fight completely overpowered on the mat, and that's always a path for Rodrigues, but not a guy we usually see kind of lean on that part of his game. I also think here, Hermansson probably the better wrestler of the two. We've seen him in there with Kamaev, albeit it was an exhibition wrestling match where they went for a long time, just kind of going back and forth. Kamaev definitely got the better of him, but it wasn't easy at all. And while Rodrigues does have excellent jiu-jitsu, I don't know that he necessarily has the takedown entries to capitalize on someone like Hermansson. On the feet, he has a huge power advantage. I think that is why Rodrigues is favored. I understand it. But surprisingly, when you kind of look at the tangibles, like the height, reach, etc., some kind of interesting numbers that stand out to me. Hermansson actually has a reach advantage here, which is kind of shocking. Also, obviously, everyone kind of considers Hermansson to be the older fighter here. Rodrigues only 4 years younger, so it's not like some huge age gap. or anything like that. I do think there's value probably on Hermansson as the underdog. Am I confident enough to play him or to recommend him as a play? Probably not. But at the same time, I mean, he's taken on the better level of competition. If you look at Rodriguez's record, I don't think there's a single win there that he has that wouldn't be a win for Hermansson. I'm not sure I could say the same on the other side, but it's close. I mean, these are two very solid fighters. I just think the value right now is on the Hermansson side. G-Rod up to minus 220, 230. I expect that number to continue to widen. He is a fighter who does tend to get a lot of public love. But Hermansson, to your point, very unorthodox, kind of hard to find on the feet. Against the cage, it could get scary for him. I wouldn't be shocked if he were KO'd, but his durability's held up really well in a lot of his recent matchups. He does have a cardio advantage here as well. In a 5-round fight, I'd be all over Hermansson. I do think he could maybe wear on Rodrigues. We saw Rodrigues kind of fade against Cannonier in the 3rd round that last time out. And that fight against Shahbazyan and Hermansson was kind of struggling early and then kind of took over, albeit against an opponent, Shahbazyan, who has even worse gas tank than Rodrigues. But stylistically, it's a great matchup. I could certainly see this one going either way. I just think there's value on the Hermansson side right now.
Okay. We will take a look now at this matchup between featherweights. Jose Delgado, minus 170, the betting favorite against Hyder Amil, who could be had currently at plus 135. These odds have closed slightly, some money coming in on Hyder Amil. I am on the Hyder Amil side of this matchup, but I'm expecting fireworks one way or another. These are two fighters that have showcased very good striking skills. And I think we should see both engage very early on, just given the style of fight we always get out of Hyder Amil. Real throwback fighter here, gets in your face, pressures forward, lands big shots, does not care the shots that he's eating in return. Still undefeated, not afraid to get in there and just throw with reckless abandon, no concern for the power coming back at him. That could certainly be a problem against this kid, Delgado, who has showcased very good kickboxing skills, finishing power prior. 27 years old, 8 years younger than Hyder Amil, longer reach and taller fighter. So definitely does have a lot of the athleticism on his side here. Hits probably harder, if not just as hard as Hyder Amil. And honestly, a more diverse arsenal of attacks as well, throwing in kicks, knees. Delgado does have more options to engage with his opponents as they move forward. But if that's all Amil does, move forward, get in your face, throw right hand, left hand, body shot, he's going to wear on you. And some guys are going to be able to handle it, and some are just not going to be able to. Amil in his last fight against William Gonis earned the win, still undefeated, but certainly a very close fight. As is normally the case with William Gomez. It's not like Amil's just going to come in here and starch everyone at 145 pounds. It doesn't happen. But yeah, I like the value on him as the betting underdog. He's somebody that I know is going to fight very hard for my money. And Delgado, perhaps a slightly overvalued here. I mean, it was a blind bet for me last time out against Connor Matthews, who I just always fade. And as expected, he won that fight by 1st-round knockout. So that's perhaps boosting him up a bit heading into this matchup with Hyder Amil. I'd rather take a shot on the underdog. Should be an incredible fight either way, though.
Yeah, this is one of those fights that kind of has fight of the night written all over it. These are two guys that throw extremely aggressively, both averaging more than 6.5 significant strikes landed per minute. I'm with you, though. I think there's value on the Amil side. I don't feel super good about it because this is a guy who just throws with reckless abandon, absorbing 4 strikes a minute as well. Certainly could get caught in a lengthy exchange. Delgado has more power than a lot of his recent opponents. But at the same time, I mean, I just think I've been more impressed by the wins that he's securing over Lee, over Gomes. I think these are really solid opponents. The Juarez win is pretty nice there for Delgado. He does fight out of MMA Lab. He's definitely in a solid camp. I think he's going to continue to improve. But at this point in these two guys' respective careers, I am on the Amil side. It is super unfortunate Amil's getting such a late start to his UFC career, already kind of old for the division. But undefeated, I mean, two guys who are just going to go in there and swing. And we've seen Amil kind of able to fight through adversity and do it for 3 rounds. Delgado, while he has found a lot of success, I mean, he's just knocking guys out that he's supposed to knock out. We haven't really seen him kind of weather that storm, go through the fire, last for 3 rounds. So I like the Amil side just kind of based on durability. Delgado does have crazy power, but Amil seems to have a crazy chin. So two similar fighters in a lot of ways. I just think we've seen a little bit more out of Amil, which is enough for me to prefer him at plus money as the underdog. So I think you covered it pretty well. Not much for me to add, but I'm right there with you on the dog here.
All right, well, I will let you take this next one then. Women's flyweight fight here coming up. Tracy Cortez minus 250, the betting favorite against Viviane Araújo. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I think Araujo's underrated, generally speaking. It was Karine Silva she beat last time, right? I mean, I think
Yep.
I managed to catch a pretty decent plus money bet on her there. I mean, she's getting up there in age though. And yeah, I do think Tracy's probably the better grappler in this matchup. Young fighter continues to improve. Actually gave a decent showing of herself against Rose Namajunas in a fight she took on relative short notice. Great win over Jasmine Jusdavicius, who's really climbing up the rankings now. Kind of surpassed Cortez, honestly, in a lot of ways. But this is a tough test. Like I do think the line here is too wide. I just have trouble not taking the Cortez side. This is someone the UFC's got their marketing machine behind. She's doing tequila commercials in partnership with the UFC, a whole bunch of other stuff. It is International Fight Week. Araujo, I mean, she's talented. She is a great test here, but she is playing the role of the gatekeeper. I don't know. I do think Cortez gets it done. I really don't like the money line price though, where she's over minus 200. If you were to play either side, it's probably Araujo just for the value. But in a fight that plays out closely with the crowd behind her, I do expect Cortez to most likely get the nod. On the feet, Araujo's the better striker, but I do think Tracy's going to be able to kind of close the distance and get the takedown she need or control this fight up against the fence for the better part of 15 minutes. Has really solid cardio and durability as well. I think this fight does go the distance. I think it's going to be very close. I just have trouble expecting the judges to give it to Araujo in front of a very pro Cortez crowd. Again, hate the money line, but Cortez is the pick for me.
I'm with you. Not a fight that I'm going to be investing much in, but I'm on the Cortez side here as well. Yeah, it is a fight favored to definitely go to the judges' scorecards. Araujo is not somebody that I trust to ever really fight well in round three. She's good for, for first chunk of the fight, generally speaking, but yeah, round three, she does tend to fade, and now 38 years old, 7 years older than her opponent, Tracy Cortez. I think it's going to be hard for her to really find much success there in the latter half of this fight. And if she drops either of the first rounds, that's going to mean it's the night for her. Cortez, utilizing her offensive wrestling, should be able to secure at least one of the first 2 rounds in my eyes. We've seen her score 2 or more takedowns in 4 of her last 5 fights. So getting that offensive wrestling going, even against the likes of, Namajunas. Whereas, again, Araujo, always a decent underdog play, fighting well, winning her last time out. But even that performance, kind of lucky, lower volume matchup against Karine Silva. And while her striking should be a bit better than Cortez, I don't think it's anything that's going to really blow away the judges or sway this fight into her favor. Cortez seems like the rightful favorite in the spot, and I think right there with you, she's likely to get the win here on International Fight Week. All right. Looking at the first prelim, this fight at lightweight, a very good one between Terrance McKinney and Vyacheslav Borshov. McKinney minus 170, the betting favorite currently against Borshov, who could be had at plus 140. This is a binary matchup as well, in the fact that McKinney is very often going to finish the fight in round one, or probably end up on the losing end of a decision or later finish. 16 career wins, or 15 of 16 career wins coming in round one. All 6 of his UFC wins coming in round one. He's a guy who's going to get after it extremely early, like a Hyder Amil, right in your face, looking to exchange or looking to drag you to the mat. McKinney does have very high level wrestling and a decisive edge grappling here against Vyacheslav Borshov, somebody who in the past we have seen taken down rather easily. and held there, at least in the early part of his fights. McKinney normally quick to either strike with you or just blast double, throw you down to the mat, and then quickly work to put damage on his opponents from there. That's exactly what we're going to see in this matchup too. But I trust Borshov to weather that early storm and to find the start of the second round and on the feet take over and beat up Terrance McKinney. It is going to be tough. I think the grappling defense has to be on point for Borshov. You can't allow an easy shot right there at the beginning. He probably will get taken down in round one. But if McKinney wants to strike with him, Borshov can certainly hang. And again, if this gets out of the first 5 minutes, Borshov's going to be the much fresher fighter, able to continue moving forward and putting his kickboxing skills on full display. Elite kickboxing, just up against it, against a super athletic freak kid that, gets after it, with no fear of the shots coming back to him. So super excited for this fight. I would suggest perhaps playing some unders, especially if you're interested in the McKinney side. I like Borshov getting slight plus money, but I'm afraid of McKinney. This is not an underdog that I'm going to be betting as heavy as like Amil or some of the other dogs I was targeting. I will be live betting Borshov if this fight gets out of round one. Pretty much the same game plan I say for every McKinney fight. But yeah, that's how I handicapped this one, and I am taking Borshov on the money line.
Yeah, this fight's either McKinney round one, Borshov round two or three, pretty much. And I think it's as easy as that. I mean, everyone this week talking about the live betting entry. I think books are hip to it, though. Like, even if McKinney dominates round one, you're not going to get a great price on Borshov coming out of that. Just because, again, McKinney is a total gasser. Everyone always says if the UFC was one round, this guy might be ranked. This guy might be a champion. He's a
Champ.
beast early. Yeah, I don't know about champ, but he'd be pretty damn good. He'd be up there for sure. I mean, averages just under 6 significant strikes per minute, able to close the distance against superior strikers. We've seen it. And it's an IQ test, essentially. He averages more than 3 takedowns per 15 minutes. Not that many of his fights ever go 15 minutes, but Borshov did a good job against Hooper, kind of staying safe, fought out of submissions. He was getting completely obliterated on the mat. But yeah, if you can kind of replicate that here, McKinney's going to fade. Hooper did not. But at the same time, McKinney definitely more of a physical specimen than one Chase Hooper. Definitely more dangerous in terms of the ground and pound, especially early. I'm kind of on the McKinney side right now. Borshov just hasn't looked the same his last few fights. Really ugly performance against Nolan. Fought to a very thin decision win over a fighter in James Longtop, who's no longer with the promotion. And obviously getting dropped by Chase Hooper, never a good sign, even if you are kind of worried about the takedown. But at the same time, yeah, if I'm on McKinney here, just bet him round one and you get plus money. It's probably the way to do it. Minus 180 does not feel good on this kid. He just tends to struggle. Maybe he gets it done early in round two, but if I'm on McKinney, just bet him round one, get the plus money. If you're heavy on it, maybe hedge and go ahead and take Borshov round two. Definitely a fight I don't think goes the distance, but there's no value on that number. So yeah, binary in that if it goes past the first round, it's probably Borshov. I don't think it does, though. I do think McKinney has enough power, speed, athleticism to probably take him out of there quickly. But totally don't fault anyone for being on the Borshov side. Again, if he just survives 5 minutes, he probably wins the fight.
Yeah, gonna look really good one way or the other on that one. All right, next up, let's look at this matchup at welterweight. Jacobe Smith, minus 3,000, the betting favorite against Niko Price, who could be had at 10-1. I mean, what are we doing here matchmaking this fight? We have Jacobe Smith here, 10-0, undefeated prospect, looking good in every fight we've seen him thus far. Really high level prospect out of Fortis MMA. Won his last fight, UFC debut against Preston Parsons by round one knockout. Very quickly getting after it and finding the finish there. Niko Price, at this stage of his career, just 35 years old, the hybrid Niko Price, but we've seen him in some wars. We've seen him knocked out in 5 of his professional losses. He's very chinny. He's going out. He's getting paid well in all of these fights here at this stage of his career. But he's up against it here, facing a super athletic kid in Jacobe Smith. Very high level wrestler, Jacobe Smith. He's able to take his fights down to the mat. And yeah, insane power. This guy knows what he's doing on the feet. Price, some defensive concerns, obviously. Probably, if I'm going into a fight as a 10-1 underdog, I'm going in, I'm going to try, I'm going to put myself in positions to get hurt. And that's probably going to be the case for Price here. Um, Impossible to play a 3,000 money line. You could maybe look at Smith at minus 250 by KO. I wouldn't really hammer this round one prop. Not necessarily going to be the case that he gets Price out of there with one punch, but wouldn't surprise me either at this stage of Price's career. That's how I'm handicapping this one, and clearly by the odds, I think a lot of other people feel the same. Price is kind of dust at this point. Are you taking a shot on him?
No, Price was never an athlete, even in his prime. Always kind of thrived in just weird chaos, just awkward striker, good grappler against guys who don't know how to grapple. But this is a guy who just got completely out grappled by Themba Gorimbo, a guy who just got knocked out by what's left of Robbie Lawler in Lawler's retirement fight. One of the worst fights of the year against Alex Morono, where neither of them should have won, but he edged him out there. Morono, the only guy in the division less athletic than Price. And if Jacobe Smith's anything, he's an athlete, tremendous wrestler, really powerful striker, great southpaw, very technical in his abilities, solid chin, everything uh, has looked great from him. And this is just not great matchmaking. I totally agree with you. I just think Smith gets it done probably in the first round, honestly. I think if you're looking for value, maybe under 1.5 is like minus 240. Smith in round one, though, minus 160, minus 170. It's just tough to find value anywhere. But Price, guy's 20 kids or something. It's ridiculous. I mean, he's got a lot going on, making kids and taking care of kids outside of the cage, getting up there in age, a guy who seems to get knocked out easier and easier anytime he's in there against someone with even a little bit of power. Smith, the better wrestler too. Price is able to lean on his wrestling again against certain guys. Just not going to see it here. I think Smith gets it done. One of the biggest favorites in UFC history. So maybe the fight gods aren't going to like that much, and we see something fluky. But I think outside of that, Smith should absolutely steamroll here. Hopefully they get him something better next time out. No disrespect to Niko Price, but this is just a weird matchup. I don't understand it at all. I guess I do though. It is International Fight Week. They're trying to build prospects. I mean, they're going to add to Jacobe Smith's highlight reel here against Niko Price. Pretty confident in that.
Okay, let's look at this matchup at heavyweight. Next up between Jhonata Denise and Alvin Hines. Denise minus 350, the betting favorite against Hines, who could be had plus 270. Here we go. Goozy Alvin Hines making his UFC debut here. He's okay. He's not very high level. He really hasn't fought any strong competition at all. Only going pro at the start of 2023 and already accruing a 10-0 record. That kind of tells you all that you need to know. This guy's not fighting any super high level competition if he is getting all of these wins. And they aren't that pretty of wins either. I mean, going to the third round in some of these fights, really having to battle lower level regional guys in order to accrue this 10-0 professional resume. So not the most impressive stuff out of Hines thus far. And he's stepping in short notice here to face Denise. Denise was going to be facing Justin Tafa here on International Fight Week. And I think that was a matchup set up for Denise to find success. Coming off a loss in his last fight, grappled, dominated on the mat there. They were putting him in there with, a bit of a chinny guy that was certainly going to stand and look to strike against him. Denise is an elite kickboxer, credentialed, long career in kickboxing prior to the transition to mixed martial arts. Very good when his fights are on the feet, able to showcase his skills. And again, somebody who's just, powerful, strong, big, heavyweight, can obviously land, overhands as anyone can. But Alvin Hines is not some technical striker. And if Denise is going to be standing there putting together good kickboxing combinations against him, I think he's going to crumple, end of round one, early round two, if even that. So I'm pretty confidently picking Denise in this fight. The odds have gone from minus 250 to minus 350, which now definitely makes it a less appealing money line bet. But I feel pretty confident picking him here against Alvin Hines. I think he's going to win this weekend.
Hayes gets it done via KO. Probably some value on a buy KO minus 40 to minus 160, depending on what book you're looking at. Hayes isn't terrible. I mean, one of the main training partners of Thomas Peterson, a guy we've seen kind of climb through the rankings a little bit. Decent grappler, which has been a hole in Denise's game. rate him the same level as some of the other grapplers we've seen Denise find success against. Win over Carl Williams, win over Austin Lane after he was taken down early, only stopped last time out by a doctor stoppage against someone in Tybura who is just levels above Alvin Deans here. So I'm on Denise. It is volatile. Anything could happen. I do think Heens could win the first round, so maybe there is actually a decent spot to enter live, but more likely than not, Denise probably just finds the finish on the feet here, probably quickly too. I mean, big lights, Heens, huge step up for him. I mean, it just kind of speaks to the quality of the heavyweight division right now that he can just walk in here, find a guy who's pretty much nearly ranked. Just hasn't been great, the UFC heavyweight division on the back half, but I do think Denise gets it done. Again, was supposed to fight Tafa, a much better opponent, would have been more interesting. I would have picked him in that fight as well, though. Heens, I think he could win against some of the back level heavyweights on the roster, but I think Denise is a little bit better than that. Denise by KO probably gets it done in the first or second.
Okay, and just one fight left for us to break down. This coming at middleweight. Jackson McVeigh, minus 155, facing Christopher Ewart, who can be had at plus 130. This is the UFC debut for both. Coming off of LFA, Jackson McVeigh, huge for the middleweight division. Not necessarily someone I'm excited about, but 6-0. Fighting already, accruing wins in LFA. Uses his size well. 6'4" with a 78-inch reach advantage. Very big for even a middleweight. Whereas Ewart, I would say, is small. Potentially could be fighting at welterweight sometime, again in the future. But I don't blame him for taking this fight here and competing at middleweight instead. He was scheduled for a Contender Series bout against Yuri Panfarov, which is now off. That fight would have been up at middleweight as well. So he should size up okay here against McVeigh. I just think it is going to be an issue with the length and the striking from range for Ewart as he looks to move in. Ewart's fine too, standing. I think he will be looking to get in close and use his boxing to a degree here against McVeigh. But that's just when this fight is on the feet. McVeigh also thus far has shown decent offensive grappling skills, and I think he could utilize those in this matchup against Ewart, who is a bit more one-dimensional, just looking to box, just looking to close the distance and outwork his opponents. Not necessarily always a game plan that is exactly what Ewart does, but again, I would say that could potentially be how he approaches this McVeigh matchup, where McVeigh could instead look for the takedowns, grappling a bit more in this fight than his last few, if he doesn't want to just rely on his length and keeping Ewart at the end of his shots. So largely due to the physical advantages, I do favor McVeigh in this fight. He was a very small favorite earlier in the week, or when this fight was first announced. This again, a second booking with McVeigh, having another fight signed prior, but now here McVeigh steaming to minus 155, a little less appealing for me. But I am still picking him to win here. I think he is the rightful betting favorite.
Yeah, this one's tricky. It's two debutantes who've kind of taken on a questionable level of competition. Tough to really have a ton of confidence on either end. I am on the McVeigh side. I think the LFA wins are a little bit better than what we've been seeing. I will say this is a fight I do need to spend a bit more time on. So once again, just going to plug that article. But the difference here between the two that I'm seeing initially is McVeigh is the superior grappler. Pretty good choke series. He's found submissions on the mat from a variety of different positions, also able to kind of grab guillotine standing against certain opponents, and he is going to be the taller fighter here by a few inches. I think he can maybe grab Ewart's neck either up against the cage or even in the middle of the octagon, which would be something to see. On the feet, Ewart just as dangerous. These are two guys who are going to come forward. I'd be surprised if this fight went the distance, but I think in what could be a competitive striking affair, McVeigh would be wise to lean on that grappling. So I'm on the McVeigh side, thinking he probably has to mix in takedowns to get it done. But yeah, low confidence play, two debutantes who we don't know a ton about yet, haven't really been tested. But yeah, I just think I see a little bit more out of McVeigh in terms of level of competition and just a bit more well-rounded. Had that choke series, I think that could be the difference here.
Hey, awesome. Well, I am super excited for the fights coming up this weekend. We hope all of you watching do enjoy the pay-per-view. UFC 317, Topuria versus Oliveira, live from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Be sure to check out our final picks and predictions for each of these fights on Dine Sports and enjoy the fights this weekend, everyone. You take care.